So thanks again for joining. We're about a minute after. Give it another 30 seconds and we're going to start the webinar proper. My name is Lars Olson. I'm a senior partner at LeverX, joining LeverX in December of 2023. So just about 6 months now, with a former run at SAP for about 12 years. All right, looks like people are filling in from the lobby here. Let's go ahead and get started. So Matt, next slide, please. Like I said, this is the first webinar in change management powered by IPS of the 4 webinars. The next webinar coming in about 3 weeks is around SAP PLM collaboration. And then we're going to cover design management and engineering control center at the end of May. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to cover the BOM and document management from a core PLM and best practice perspective. Today, my name is Lars Olson, senior client partner at LeverX, joining about 6 months after a 12-year run at SAP. I'm joined today by Matt Rolling, who's also a senior client partner from LeverX, and a good longtime friend and colleague from SAP, Mark Landros, PLM product marketing, formerly solution manager, in charge of all of discrete PLM at SAP. Thanks, Mark, for joining. Next slide, please. All right, a little bit about LeverX. Obviously, we're a 20-year systems integrator for SAP. We're very proud of our 20-year anniversary that we celebrated in 2023 there in Miami last fall. Obviously, many customer and client projects, roughly 1,600 employees across 9 countries, 14 different offices, 15 time zones. Emerline is a company that's under LeverX that has development and software capabilities for non-SAP solutions such as Google, Microsoft, and AWS. Obviously, as LeverX, we are an SAP Gold partner, as well as a strategic supplier, and adhere to some of those ISO standards that you see down below there in our project delivery system. Next slide, please. So a little bit about LeverX and what type of partner they are with SAP. We're not only an implementation service solution provider, but also a sell solution partner edge PE sell partner, so that if you're in the current region or country that we can sell, we can actually fulfill licenses of SAP and then implement those licenses. We're also a big co-innovation partner with SAP. That means we develop a lot of the solutions that you use on a day-to-day basis. And then we obviously build solutions such as IPS on top of SAP. Next slide, please. All right, so for today's webinar, we're going to talk about change management from a best practice perspective, how it fits in SAP PLM, some of the challenges that our customers face, not only from a discrete, but also process PLM. We're going to talk about the 3 key value points, or value pillars, as we call them, around change management using IPS. That's automation, flexibility, and visibility. And at the end of the webinar, we'll have a Q&A session. If you want to actually post your questions, use the button below. Next slide, please. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Mark, who's going to talk a little bit about SAP Design to Operate and SAP PLM. So take it away, Mark.
Hey, great. Thanks a lot, Lars. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to your kickoff of your webinar series. It's a great honor to work with you. LeverX, again, is a great partner of ours. Been working with them for years. I know they do a great job implementing our solutions, and I always get excited when I hear that they're working on a development project for us, augmenting our development teams. So again, my name is Mark Landros, and I'm part of the solution management, or I should say now, product marketing group at SAP, responsible for our discrete PLM solution line. SAP PLM falls underneath the digital supply chain, and as such, we are part of the design to operate philosophy. That philosophy really is our digital thread strategy that we have here at SAP. As I like to say that within the R&D department, engineering or formulation, we are the genesis of master data that drives the rest of the organization. So you can see from the little graphic here, the pictogram we have here, when we create that master data, we're going to be doing it in a controlled environment and releasing it to the rest of the organization to use. Whether you're in planning or manufacturing or quality or sales or service, that same master data is going to travel throughout the rest of the organization. And of course, we have to be able to provide tight controls around that. And one of those tight controls is the change management process, which we'll be talking about today. Now, a little bit more, if we go to the next slide, we'll talk about just briefly how our solutions are put together within the messaging of define, develop, deliver, and manage. SAP's got a broad offering for PLM solutions that help the R&D professional perform their jobs. Within the define area, we get into idea management, we get into portfolio management, project management. This is where we really gather all that information together and help make the decisions on what products, what enhancements you're going to put into your solutions that you want to bring to your customers. In the develop area is where the rubber really hits the road. This is where we start doing all the engineering design, whether it's complex systems modeling, showing the interaction between the different systems within your particular product, or if it's the CAD design, or if it's the requirements definition, we handle that in our develop area. And then finally, when we release a product to the rest of the organization, that product data is delivered to them through our handover to manufacturing solutions, through our visualization solutions. We promote the reuse of engineering data throughout the rest of the enterprise. Then, of course, underneath all of this, we have to have some sort of process control, and that's where we get into the manage area. This is where we talk about, keeping track of the cost, keeping track of compliance, thinking about sustainability, and of course, the change process. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll touch upon change process before we hand it back to Lars to take us through the rest of the presentation. So, as we all know, the cost of change goes up exponentially, goes up quite considerably as the product matures through its life cycle. The best way to keep costs of change down is to make the changes early on in the product definition. Sometimes you can't do that. But to make things easier, to make things simpler as the cost of change, as the product's life cycle progresses, if you can control the process and make it faster and make sure that the right people are involved, that will help contain the cost. We can't bring it all the way down. We know that if something gets out to manufacturer or to service, the costs are way high there. But if we have a controlled process, we can help minimize those costs as the product has matured. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and turn it back over to Lars and take us through what we can offer through SAP, through LeverX, as far as managing that change through the product lifecycle.
Thank you very much, Mark. Next slide, please, Matt. All right, so we're basically going to set up the end-to-end demos that we're not only going to be using in this webinar, but for the rest of the webinars from a discrete manufacturing perspective. So from the definition phase, next slide, please. We're basically bringing a new product to market called the LeverX E-Moto. Okay, this is a lightweight motorcycle for trail and motocross. It's a big trend now in the off-road motorbike category there. And so here you can see we've used SAP PLM Innovation Management to start capturing ideas not only internally but externally with our customers and resellers. You can see we have 12 ideas and we're currently in the in-work phase. And we've attached some documents within SAP PLM Innovation Management that allows us to capture this digital inbox around how to create innovative product. Next slide, please. Within innovation management is the capability to create a questionnaire that goes out so that when you're asking people to join this innovation management campaign, you can have a preset another questions with weighting on each one of those questions so that when you start to create product requirements, you can map to these questions the requirements that come around the product innovation. Next slide, please. From there, we move from the innovations to actual requirements management with an SAP PLM, where we're outlining exactly all the key features and functionalities and the requirements for how this product is supposed to perform and so forth, and keeping track in that. And you can even tie these requirements to system models and then ultimately into the components or parts within the materials within the SAP S/4HANA system. So here we actually have requirements management. Next slide, please. Now we've gone beyond the define stage. We're now in the development stage in this scenario, right? So we're now developing the product based on those requirements that you just saw. So next slide, please. In this case, around the E-Moto, you can see that we've actually gone into SolidWorks and now started to develop some, some geometry and assemblies and parts and so forth. And on the left-hand side, you can see the engineers have a single user interface called Engineering Control Center that allows them to manage all of their product data, their CAD data and so forth, and basically use ECTR as an interface into SAP by checking in designs, BOMs, and so forth. And really, it's an engineering tool middleware that sits between the CAD seat and SAP to manage this product data and so forth. We'll get into more details in the webinar, the third webinar, which is ECTR and design management. So this is where we are currently in the stage. Next slide, please. You can now see that from our digital design review that we had with our customer and resellers, that we're now calling for a change in this new product development introduction phase. We're going to change this lower fork from paint color white to LeverX blue. So we basically rendered out these CAD files to be photorealistic so that our designers could represent what this looks like. Next slide, please. And we also created a dynamic form, which gave the ability for the customer design review for the people to vote which fork color they actually liked. And based off of the feedback, the white was not as popular as the blue. So that was the cause or the reason for the change. Next slide, please. So again, just to reinforce what we just said, we're going to change this paint color from white, next slide, to blue. And this lower fork, you can see we have the actual name of the component or part or material in SAP terms, as well as the material ID in the upper right-hand corner, which Matt is going to create workflows and automation, flexibility, and visibility around for the demonstration a little bit later on. And now the next slide will basically show exactly where this lower fork is in regards to the entire assembly of the E-Moto, right? So it's the lower part of the fork of the actual steering assembly there on the front wheel. And we're going to change that from white. Again, one more click, and we're going to see that go from white to blue. So it's a pretty obvious change that we'll be able to visualize in the downstream processes, not only in this webinar, but also in the follow-on webinars. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Matt and take away in regards to the demonstration of IPS and change management.
Thanks, Lars, and thanks, Mark. So let's go over the challenges basically to PLM in today's world, right? If you're not using an ERP system for your PLM. We have this nice quote up here: to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. So what are those challenges? So unstructured paper or email-based change management processes. So this is a lot of our customers today that we have. They're dealing with a lot of these change management processes via email. Nothing's really tracked. Nothing's really kept in a approval stage. So a lot of this data can get lost and it's not always accurate, leading to that next, there's no single source of truth, and all product data can be disconnected in this case. We have ever-changing market conditions, short product life cycles, and increasing product complexity. So as the world gets more, digital, that you're kind of falling behind if you're not using this. inadequate change impact analysis and lack of decision history cause delays in decision making. So this especially is a huge problem. So if you don't have your change management workflow and process, you're going to have a lot of delays and you're not going to have that accurate history. So now that we've heard the challenges, we can start to look at the key benefits of our change management system that we'll be demoing today. So automating and digitizing change management eliminates those manual errors by prevents time-saving bottlenecks. By providing structured processes and flexible workflow adjustments, organizations can adapt quickly to changing needs. Additionally, empowering enterprise visibility through change impact analysis and product insights enables informed business decisions, and that enhances overall efficiency and effectiveness. So now that we've seen these benefits, let's actually jump into the system and see what change management looks like powered by IPS. So right now you're looking at what's called an IPS ticket. And this is our workflow tool that we kind of handle our change process with. What you're seeing at the top here is a status roadmap. So we can see very clearly where we are in the process. We're in this in-work step, as Laura's pointed out before, where the engineers are actually doing the design work. So now we know, okay, this is where we are in the process. Let's see some information related to the process itself. We have a ticket number, a ticket type here for our new product introduction, what status we're in, and we have some key fields for descriptions and summaries. So we can see basically the change that Lars outlined before. And specifically, we have a reference object type. So we're relating this change to a change master. So that way we can have all the objects that we are making this change on related to one specific object, this change master. I can see my creation date and who it's created by. It's created by me. So in the initiate step here in status 10, I was the one who actually created the change. And now we went to marketing at this point. So if I click on this attachments tab, I can see that customer design preference PDF that Lars outlined before. If I click on this here, I can see, oh, okay, this relates to my change. We can add all types of different documents related to this change, and they're not under change control, which is nice because you don't want to add documents or like DIRs or materials in SAP terms to this area. So this is kind of this attachment tab is where we're going to handle all of our supporting documents. If I click through to the objects tab, I can see the material, the top level with our actual Emoto, and then the lower fork. So that kind of gives us our indication from before when this change control board review did their work, they were able to identify which material was changing in the BOM itself. So now we know, okay, when we're going to the work with the designer, they know everything they need to do to make this change for this lower fork to change it to LeverX Blue. We have this notes tab here in IPS, which you can add notes and there's additional collaborative ability with this tab. So it's nice if needed for your change process. And specifically, we wanted to talk about automation. So if I go to workflow and I scroll down, I'm going to show a screen related specifically to automation, and I'm going to highlight what's going to happen later on in this process. So when I look at this highlighted area, this material status shift, in IPS, this is what's called a system task. And a system task is going to automatically do something related to the objects I have on my objects tab. So I'm going to perform a material status shift, a document status shift, and a material rev. So what's really nice, and this is kind of the benefit of PLM and in SAP and in general, when you digitize your process, you can have your change happen at the exact same time. So once this change is approved by the engineer, we can then have our material status shift if it's needed, rev the material if it's needed, and approve any documents so that they can be released. So this all happens at the same time as one package. There's no manual work where you need to switch on and off certain objects, and some might be on quicker than others. If you release one before something else, you could have some problems there too. So this lets the system take care of it. It lets The system basically lets the system not have any errors. There's no, users making these decisions as well. So it's really nice for a change process. So now we've seen the automation capability there. I'm just going to quickly make a workflow decision so you can see what that looks like. I come here to the decision tab. When you're assigned a workflow in IPS, you get this decision tab with a task description, letting you know what you need to do. And this is all configurable based on your personal process at your business. So this can be adjusted as needed. And so if I go to edit mode here, I can make a decision. I can select proceed. As Lars mentioned, let's imagine the work is being done at this point in ECTR, and all the objects have been updated on the objects tab, and we can go ahead and hit proceed. What's nice is IPS is also integrated into ECTR. You're seeing our Fiori tile here, but we have the same capability to make this decision in ECTR with the ability to drag and drop objects directly onto these tickets. And so you can interact with that just like you're interacting with ECTR in your SAP system. When I hit save, that records my decision. So now the workflow has moved forward. If I select refresh, I can see, oh, we're in the approval step. The engineer now got an email that gets kicked off to say they have some work to approve. So they got to check out Walt's work to make sure he did everything correctly. I'm going to go to my email inbox real quick. And we can see the work items generated here, and we can include anything in this email body that we want. This is what I have chosen for the demo, and they have the link to the work item, so that way Walt can see, the engineer can see what Walt worked on, and they can click into the ticket just like I was showing you before. Okay, so now that we've seen kind of IPS in general, we can go over specific benefits of PLM and IPS specifically. So some of these automation benefits. As mentioned, we can eliminate the risk of paper-based and unstructured email processes to reduce delays in product development cycles. Simple process automation via low code, no code, drag and drop workflow process design. I'm going to show this in a minute, where we can create workflows with just drag and drop, just configuration. This is a major pain point for a lot of customers, where if I have a workflow and I need to make an adjustment to it, sometimes it's development cost, right? I need to use a developer to adjust the workflow. But with IPS, almost all of it can be done with configuration. When we do these, this example I'm about to show you, where we're going to add a new task for collaboration. So product master data can be released or extended during change management processes. So I kind of outlined that when I said the material, the document, and the revision for the material can all be moved at the same time. So we have auto agent determination. Workflows automatically routed based on product master data to streamline product development. So this auto agent determination is really nice, because oftentimes I've worked with a lot of customers. I've been about 6 years in the consulting team. I've worked on demos now as of recently, but a lot of the time what happens is there's a lot of manual assignment in workflows. I don't really know the correct group, so I'm not going to commit to putting the right user in that role. Or in some cases, if it's just a manual process done by email, you can't nail down this user group, and you have to manually send it. With this auto agent determination, you can save a ton of time by slicing and kind of dicing how you set your users. So based on attributes like plant or a specific lab office or something related to your workflow itself, like that change process or region, you could have a different user group pool for each one of these tasks. So that way, when you have a particular change, let's say in Asia versus somewhere else, you know the right users to assign to that group, that role there. And then when the task gets set, you have the right bucket of users that it's going to go to. So that saves you a ton of time, and we can do this in a variety of different ways with IPS. So automation of change notifications via email to all stakeholders to increase visibility, awareness, and change decisions. What's really nice is With IPS, we have what's called notification tasks, which we can take information from the change and put that on to the email itself. So any of the attributes you kind of saw, we can also include a PDF printout of the change, which is a nice feature with standard IPS, where we include the objects and the decisions that were made, and that can be included in that email notification. So this can be sent out to SAP users and as well, in this case, as an email to non-SAP users, if that's something that makes sense for your use cases. So let's go in. I'll show you how easy it is to add a new workflow task in IPS. So right here, I'm in what's called a workflow template. That's what we call them in IPS. Got timed out, unfortunately. Took too long. About an hour since I've touched this page. Okay, so bear with me for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new task for, if I scroll down a bit, I have quite a few tasks on my left panel. Supplier collaboration. So in a few weeks, Walt's going to be demoing this with Lars, and the supplier collaboration will be a very key item in this process to see the progress of the eMoto. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this over to after this design step. So in this case, in this scenario, I'm going to have our supplier collaboration after that design step I just had, so we can get them involved in this process. And so we can also add things like if conditions based on if the material is a make or buy. So in this case, I can set an if condition here with one of these buttons right here. So that way only the materials that are a buy might get this supplier collaboration. So a lot of other flexibility here, but basically I didn't have to code anything and I could do this, so which is really nice. So moving on from automation, let's go to flexibility. We can provide structured change management processes and flexibility to easily adjust workflows on the fly as circumstances arise. So some of our key benefits with flexibility include we can easily modify in-flight workflows to adapt to changing development processes and reduce time to market. This is a very important feature for a lot of our customers and gives a lot of business value, because sometimes they want to be able to adjust that workflow on the fly, right? They have certain scenarios where they don't want to use certain tasks. They don't want to get people involved that don't need to get involved. IPS lets you easily delete tasks if you configure them to be so. So you can set some tasks to be, obviously you never want them to be deleted, or sometimes we want this and sometimes we don't. And we can't really tell the system it's a specific if condition or something like that. We know when we need it, when we go through the change process, and we'll decide that. So that's a nice feature. We can change users on the fly to eliminate bottlenecks and increase process efficiency when key decision makers are not available. This is probably one of the biggest benefits of IPS, I think, because when a workflow is in flight and someone needs to make a decision, and let's say they had a family emergency or they're on vacation and they didn't set a substitute, or whatever other reason they couldn't make a decision at that time, IPS is one of the only tools that, and especially in SAP, that lets you change the user on the fly. So I can add a user to an existing work item and move that forward if we choose to configure it to be that way. So that way we can stop that bottleneck and keep moving if needed. We have this 80-20 rule for structured change management with flexibility to easily adapt and create alternative change management workflows. So a lot of the time we want to get that 80% of the time your process is working, and that 20% is stuff that we can handle in other ways, right? With these ad hoc workflows or deleting tasks, things like that. So that's kind of our philosophy at LeverX is some customers struggle with, oh, we can't quite nail down our process, so we're not even going to try, right? But this this way you can get most of the value here, and then the 20%, it's okay if that looks a little different. It's where you're going to get the gains from that big change process, that 80%. So, and we can help you for that, that 20% that doesn't really fit, we can find the right solution for you. So as mentioned, ad hoc, insert and remove workflows and tasks to improve change efficiency, optimizing resources and cost savings. So going back to before, IPS is a very flexible tool. And so we can have things like inserting multiple workflows. So that way you can have multiple processes running at the same time, parallel tasks, things like that. So as complex as your change process is, we can build it in the system. We can easily add change notifications to business partners outside the SAP landscape to promote and encourage collaborative change processes. I mentioned this before, but those notifications can go out to non-SAP users, which is very nice. If someone's making a decision, they obviously need to be in SAP, but if they just need to be notified, this is a great way to do that. So I'm going to quickly demo adding a user basically on the fly as the workflow is already in process. So if I go back to my ticket 777, I didn't plan that. I just got lucky, I guess, with the 777. And I go to workflow and I select my edit button. I'm the approving engineer on this task. Let's say I'm out of office and I forgot to set my substitute, or I had an emergency and I didn't have time to. I could select from a user ID, assign a user. Antonino is one of my coworkers. I'll assign him. And just like that, he's assigned, and he's going to get an email that he can work on this task, and he can reserve it and sign off for me. And just so this add buttons, this is a lot of power for certain users. We want to make sure we can handle it correctly. So we can configure this by task. So not every task can have this ability. If you have something like a really specific change process with regulatory concerns, we have what's called digital signature. We can lock down this particular task where you can't add additional users, and we just use that digital signature, and they're going to sign it every time. So we're going to know it's them each time. And also this add button itself can be controlled, so only certain users can use it. So we can kind of handle any option there. So visibility is our last pillar here. So we can empower enterprise visibility with change impact analysis and product insights to enable informed business decisions. Impact analysis provides a structured approach to identify the impact of the proposed product change and empowers informed decision-making. Very huge for PLM. Doing things like where used and other ways to identify what's changing and what items will be impacted, what objects in your system. So that's kind of the whole point of PLM and change management is to make those judgments. So we have those steps in the workflow for the change control board and other people to make that evaluation. And there's a bunch of tools in SAP that you can use to do that. And I'm sure we're going to show them in our rest of our webinar series. So you can gain valuable visual insights leveraging change management, Fiori charts, and reports. So I'm going to show a Fiori tile. So this is a workflow dashboard in a few minutes. So you'll get to see more information on that. Historical views of product master data and all related change management records to product development governance, compliance with industry standards, and adherence to regulatory requirements to mitigate legal risk. This is one of the key benefits for regulated industries, right? You want to have track of all of your different change items and who made those decisions and why they did it, their justifications, things like that. You want to capture all of that and be ready for any kind of audits and things like that. So this is probably one of the main benefits, I would say, as well, to PLM ERP system, right? Escalation emails sent if work items, tasks are not completed, reducing common workflow bottlenecks. A key feature of IPS is escalation emails. So we can set and configure based on a specific amount of time, whether it's a day, a few days. If you haven't worked on your task, okay, now you're going to get a reminder email. And let's say you haven't worked on it on a week, we can set it to send an email to your manager. So there's a lot of different ways we can handle escalation, and helps keep the process moving. So next up is that dashboard. So I'll show that. Okay. So what you're seeing is our workflow dashboard. This will basically give you those key insights at a glance. And if you want to drill down deeper, we can find the specific workflows that are hung up, basically. Okay, so we have a few key tiles I'll just point out here so we can see our open and closed tickets. So our open and closed workflows. This was the past 2 months, we had 2 closed, so we're doing pretty well, but we have 10 open. What are these 10 open? Okay, let's take a look. I can see what status they're in, who are they created by, additional information here as well. And if I want to drill down, I can easily do that right here, which is nice. I can go back. I could see them at a glance here. If I want to just filter through them, if I don't want to look at them in that other view, I can see them. A lot of mine are still open. I guess I haven't been doing my work. So you can see ticket duration, how long your process was open for, what was the shortest PLM process you had, what users were assigned, and what users have the most open work items. This one's probably very interesting for management, right? You can see those different things and kind of capture who are the bottlenecks and what can we do to improve that. You also have tickets trending, so you can see how many you closed per month. So this blue is the closed, and then orange is the open. And then you can see, oh, we closed quite a few in March here. So it's kind of the basic outline here I'll show for now. Kind of doing a little time check here. It's 11:40. I guess here, well, kind of our closing slide. Basically, what did we learn today? We can automate and digitize change management workflows and eliminate manual error-prone tasks to help avoid time-sensitive bottlenecks. That was kind of the key automation concern. Provide structured change management processes and flexibility to easily adjust workflows on the fly as circumstances arise. Change management doesn't always look the same. That 80-20 rule applies for basically every customer. So that flexibility is key to get your processes in the system, get all that all that great workflow ability, plus your different visibility, and that goes along with the next one where you can empower enterprise visibility with change impact analysis and product insights to enable informed business decisions. So that visibility is kind of key. That's how you can capture all your processes, know what's working, what's not, get that identification and move forward. Yeah. Here we have a couple case studies available for your consumption, I guess, if you want to take a look at these after and have a read on their journey through SAP with PLM and IPS. So we had a project with Weber Grills as well as Arthrex. So here is some of our other accelerators that we offer at LeverX. So you saw IPS, that's our workflow solution, which works very well with change management, but it also works with a variety of other things, material creation processes, sales and purchase order requisition, like notifications with those types of things and approvals. So we have support for 30 different objects in IPS. So if you have a change process around SAP, we can definitely work on that or something else. So the IPS is a really flexible tool. We have DataLark, which is our data processing and integration. So it's basically an ETL tool plus so much more. We can control and automate data migration for things like S4 migrations from SAP to non-SAP, and it's low code, no code, and business users can definitely take advantage of it. So if you have a big S4 implementation and need tools to move data, this is a great one. We have Bmax on this third slide here. Bmax is a material extension tool. So we can extend materials very easily with rules. So this is a very big time saver with businesses and huge value add. So if you have basically a material you need to extend to a variety of different plants, and there's different logic for each plant because they're in different locations and all the material fields are going to be different, we can set up a rule-based system, and that material extension is then going to be automatic with the system, totally automated. And so you don't have nearly as many errors as someone doing this manually. I see a lot of customers do this with spreadsheets and things like that and get tons of errors. So this is a good way to automate that process of material extension. We also finally have our IQ series, which are Fiori-based apps for basically lightweight Fiori apps for related to the current app. So we get basically we have our development team that designs these apps to kind of add additional functionality to the existing let's document creation or document viewing and IQ launch and various other things. So we have basically access to key product data is with less clicks, let's call it. And I think that's it here. Q&A time.
So there is a question by Manoj in there in regards to change record. If you can go ahead and take a look at that, Matt, so we can get that answered. And then we'll get ready to close out with all our information.
Could you,
yeah, do you want me to read it for you?
Read it off? Yeah, I'm trying to find it, but I'm not able to.
Yeah. So Manoj says, I have used IPS workflow with engineering records in PLM web UI, but do we same integration of IPS workflow with change record in Fiori? So I guess it's, does IPS workflow work with change record in the new Fiori app versus the legacy PLM web UI?
Yeah, so we've done this for a different customer actually. So yes, we can have IPS in the change record and use all that functionality in Fiori.
All right. Any other questions? Use the Q&A button at the bottom before we go to our contact information. So now's the time if you have any other questions in regards. All right. All right, Matt, let's go to the next slide and give them all of our contact information. At this time, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today's webinar, including special guest Mark Landrosch there. It's always a pleasure to work with Mark in my past life and now in my present life here at LeverX. Again, thank you again to Matt and myself. Thank you myself. That's awesome. We hope you join the other webinars that are scheduled in the coming weeks. We appreciate your time and have a great day. And thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Lars. Thanks, Matt.